the first event I attended was the Laugh Factory. It was a comedy show that I went to. It was something that I've always wanted to go to. I've never been to the Laugh Factory. I've heard of it. I've seen videos on it. I watched TikToks on it. It was something I was obsessed with, but never got to go to until now. I went on a Monday night with Griffin and Alex, and we walked in, and we got seated in the front row, which we thought we were gonna get picked on, and you betcha we got picked on that night. Um, at the beginning though, it was a weird, timid crowd. Not People weren't saying much. There was not much laughter. It was kind of like everyone pulled back for a little bit, and we were wondering kind of why. And then we realized the host of the show actually said, Monday, everyone's hungover, things like that, which kind of got the crowd going a little bit. Everyone started laughing at that. So we got in there. The show started with the host who kind of warmed up the crowd and started talking and did a little comedy in the beginning, kind of see the vibe of the room, which I thought was pretty normal for a comedy show. And then he explained what was going to happen. There were 5 comedians that night, and they did 10-minute segments. And these comedians range from experience to no experience to 20 years old to 50 years old, with many different backgrounds and styles of comedy. So after that, the first comedian was introduced, and the show went on as that. And then the host also closed the show out saying thank you and appreciating all the comics and the people that went. The show had many ups and downs. There were periods of a lot of laughter and periods of no laughter at all, which I felt like the comedians did a really good job of reading the room and figuring out what they were doing. They really knew their audience well, which I thought was a big part of it. Each comedian had their own style of comedy. Some used real life events, things that were happening in the world, and some just plain old just made funny jokes. And so when they talked about different things, some talked about life experiences, some talked about things going on in the world. COVID was a big one. Politics was a big one. Another big one was people in the room they made jokes about. And throughout these experiences, you could tell that the skill levels of each person was very different. They either had a high skill level and could read the room right and make jokes depending on what was going on, or did not have much confidence, very little skill level, and were just starting out. With that, some of the comedians were prepared, some weren't. There was one comedian that forgot what he was going to say, but got his note card out of his pocket and continued right on with the show, which I thought, I had problems speaking in the beginning, and I was like, yeah, they make mistakes too. I mean, they're professionals, but they still make mistakes, and they got right back on track with the note card. And I was like, oh, they're just like us. And the way they were talking varied differently. Some were laid back and very conversational, as well as they did a lot of questions. The crowd work they did was impressive to me, actually. They used the crowd. There was this one drunk guy sitting right next to us, actually, that was a topic of the show most of the time, actually. He was quite annoying, but the comedians did a good job of incorporating him into the show and making it funny in a way I thought it was pretty cool to see. And then with that, they divided the room, sort of. So they said that one half of the room was funny and one half didn't want to be there, and that one half was energized, one wasn't. And they kind of vibed on that by switching sides of the stage and using the whole room to create one, which I thought was pretty cool. And so, like I said, we got picked on during the show. Actually, we thought we made it through the whole show until the last comedian made eye contact with me, Griffin, and Alex, and then made a joke that I won't repeat, but it was a dirty joke that they thought would work with us, and it definitely hit well with the crowd. With this comedian, I saw another comedian there that was sort of like him. She was just bold, and this guy was bold too, and I thought that worked really well with the deliveries they did. different comedians had different types of delivery methods, and the variness of them I thought was very interesting because some were bold, some were not bold. And I felt like the delivery of the joke really made it. It either made the joke or didn't make the joke, and I feel like that related to speech very well too. Because if your opener doesn't hit very well, you're not really going to grab the attention of the audience you're speaking to. And definitely the young woman that spoke did a very good job of this, and so did the last comedian at the end. The overall experience of this, I loved it. I thought it was fun. I would recommend it to anyone. The only thing that was bad was the 2-drink minimum. I had to buy a $5 lemonade that was full of ice, but I did it. It was worth it. It was fun. It was definitely a good experience, and I would recommend it to everyone that does it. Thank you. The second event I attended was the Infinite Wrench. Now, Nikki, you recommended this as one of the events, and boy, oh boy, was it interesting. So I got there. I went with Griffin and Alex again. And from the start, it was an interesting experience. The building we walked into was abstract. It was almost like an apartment that was like redone. It was a very interesting building. And just from that start, I knew this was going to be a very interesting experience, which I did enjoy it in the end, but it was a little bit to get used to. At first, I didn't know what was going on. We walked in, went up these flight of stairs, walked into a room. There was a weird video playing that I don't know what was. I honestly, Nikki, I have no clue what was playing in that video. It was really weird. It was like dolls and cartoons and stuff, and I was like, I don't know what's going on. I felt like I was in a fever dream for a little bit. And then at first I was like, I didn't know this was a waiting room, but it was a waiting room. And we got put on into an actual stage area eventually when the hosts / actors / ushers walked in, explained what was going to happen, gave us a rundown of the whole place, and then brought us in with a bell and gave us fake names. I thought that was cool. That was fun. So then we got there into the stage area, and they explained to us what was going to happen. The 30 plays in 2 minutes, or 32-minute plays. And I was unsure what was actually going to happen at first. I didn't understand the whole, you got to pick a random play, just calling a number, and they would do that play, which I thought was absolutely incredible. And so we started, and we got to see so many different kinds of plays and so many different kinds of stories and different kinds of speech and different kinds of body language, and just there were so many different experiences during during the 60 minutes. Saw some boobs. Wasn't expecting that. It's all good. Just wasn't expecting that. That was interesting. Anyways, so there was clearly a vast amount of comedy and plays and everything in there. There were boobs to a sad story about someone's grandma dying, which I thought was weird, but it was an interesting spectrum how these actors could change from being funny and just non-emotional at all and just being funny to being very serious, and going from non-serious to very serious. I thought it was very interesting, as well as how this changed every play. Every play didn't have the same emotion to it, and the way these people could adjust to that, I thought was incredible to really get the story across to the crowd. And these people, they worked the crowd well. I mean, they were in the crowd, they were off the crowd, or out of the crowd. They got people involved. They had a lady go run for pizza down the street for $10. That was cool. She came back with a slice of pizza. That was nice. And they worked everything so well, and I was impressed by what they did. They showed lots of emotion. They would change their voice. They would adapt to their environment so well on just a snap of a finger. I thought it was incredible. It was so fast paced, so I was confused for a while during this all, but I ended up really liking it. I didn't really know what happened in the last hour. It took me about an hour after to realize what had just happened. But I thought back on it, I was like, that was incredible. These people went around doing 30 different plays, remembered everything they had to say with no notes, being able to change emotion, being able to move around, change the stage. I thought it was very impressive. Overall, the experience, I would recommend it to anybody. You might get a little confused at first. You just kind of got to you got to fake it till you make it. You know how we say in class, you just got to fake it and hope you get the vibe of it. But I really recommend it. I thought it was worth it 100%. It was only $10. I was like, that's nice. And you got to experience something that most people don't get to experience, and it's not very common around. So yeah, I thought it was absolutely incredible. I thought the people did great, and I would recommend it to anybody. Thank you. This class was by far my favorite class I've ever taken in college, in high school, in middle school, elementary school, any school I ever take, every school I've ever taken. It was by far my favorite for so many reasons, but I think you, Nikki, was the key to it all. This class taught me so much about myself and about other people and about just things in the world in general. I loved the class because I could be myself in this class. I could express myself in so many different ways, in a way that was me and how I normally express myself in everyday life. I also enjoyed hearing about other students' lives and experiences and what they had to share and how we could build off each other on that. As well as the activities we did in class, my favorite being the music video one. That was by far I found that the most fun. But behind that, there was a reason we did everything in those activities. There's a reason we watched all the videos, and I liked that everything had a purpose to it. The purpose was real and it showed, which is why I think I got so much out of the class, is because you told me there was a purpose, you said why we were doing it, and we got the experience and the purpose in the end of it, and we got to see what actually the whole goal was in the end. There was not much I really didn't like about the class. I mean, there weren't that many. There were 6 speeches, and 2 of them were online or in video, and I thought it was nice having both of them, to be honest. I thought that I could get the experience of talking in person to people, also as well as in a video, which I will need in my life at some point, I'm assuming, and it helped me during that. There's a lot of things that stuck out during this whole semester that we did. It was definitely not a normal class. We had a lot of fun. We got a lot to do with different things. I've heard things in a classroom. I've seen things in a classroom I don't think I'll ever see again, nor ever think I'd see. But it was just so much fun to do. And I learned so much. I learned about myself. I feel like I learned a lot about myself. I learned how I can grow. I have seen how I've grown, and I've learned that I might see that I don't think I can do something, but I really can. And as long as I keep trying at something, I'll get it eventually. And I feel like that's what I've learned a lot about myself during this class, is that I can accomplish anything as long as I put my mind to it and I'm confident about it. Some of my big takeaways from this class was definitely walk with my pussy out. That was a day one thing. That was day one to the last day. Do that the rest of my life, because that'll get me places. As well as just other skills I've learned throughout this class, like, eye contact and speaking with your chest and just being confident. Confidence is the key, I feel like, in everything. And I feel like you say anything with confidence, you'll get somewhere in life and everyone will believe you there. So I thought that was a big takeaway. And I feel like this class relates to the real world so well, because everything I do in this class, I will need to do in my life, in my job, very often, and I will need this experience, and everything from this class I can take into my job, into my future life, and it was worth every penny or every day that I was in the class. Yeah, so overall, I really enjoyed the class. I thought it was so much fun. I love seeing everyone grow. I love seeing myself grow. I learned so much about people, and I learned a lot about myself, because I know that in day one when I walked into that class, there was absolutely no way I was going to tell my life story to that class. And by the end of it, I did. I told my whole life story, and you got me to do it because of the way you taught me throughout this semester. I appreciate everything you did for this semester, Nikki. Thank you very much.